Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm so glad you're here today. Whether you're listening from your kitchen table with a cup of coffee, walking through the park with your earbuds in, or tuning in after a long day, I want to take a moment to acknowledge something important: the fact that you showed up. You made space in your day for this conversation, and I don't take that lightly. My hope is that what we talk about here today will not just inspire you, but also give you the courage to see yourself in a new light. Now, let's talk about something we all crave but often misunderstand: belonging. At our core, every single one of us longs to feel that deep sense of connection, to be seen, accepted, and loved without having to put on a mask. But somewhere along the way, most of us were taught, directly or indirectly, that in order to belong, we had to change ourselves. We learned to edit parts of who we are so we could fit into the spaces we wanted to be in. Maybe it was in our families where we kept quiet to avoid conflict. Maybe it was in school where we downplayed our interests to blend in. Or maybe it was in our workplaces or friendships where we learned how to say what was expected instead of what was real. Here's the truth. There is a big difference between fitting in and belonging. Fitting in is about surveying the room, reading the cues, and then twisting yourself into whatever shape will be most accepted. Belonging is something entirely different. It's showing up exactly as you are in all your complexity and trusting that you are worthy of connection without needing to shrink, hide, or perform. The world often celebrates those who fit in easily, the ones who seem adaptable, agreeable, and always appropriate. But fitting in is exhausting. It drains you because it asks you to betray small pieces of yourself over and over again. And here's the dangerous part: when you spend years changing who you are for acceptance, you can lose sight of who you were in the first place. Your true laugh becomes quieter. Your bold ideas stay unspoken. Your feelings get locked away in the name of keeping the peace. And the longer you live this way, the more disconnected you become, not just from others, but from yourself. Brené Brown said it beautifully: true belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. That's a radical thought in a world that rewards conformity. It means you don't have to constantly perform or prove yourself. You don't have to wait until you're more polished, more accomplished, or more likable to claim your worth. You already belong, not because someone else granted you permission, but because belonging starts with you. Now, I won't sugarcoat it. Living authentically comes with challenges. When you stop bending yourself into shapes for other people's comfort, some relationships will shift, some will fade. You might even face criticism or rejection. But here's the paradox: when you risk being your full self, you open the door to the kind of relationships and communities that can hold you exactly as you are. You trade shallow acceptance for deep, life-giving connection. True belonging is not about finding a perfect group where everyone agrees with you or sees the world exactly the same way. It's about standing firm in your own identity, even when you feel like you're standing alone. It's about holding onto your integrity when it would be easier to compromise. It's about remembering that your worth is constant, regardless of how many people approve of you in the moment. Over the course of this conversation, we're going to explore what it truly means to belong without changing yourself. We'll talk about the subtle traps of fitting in and how to spot them. We'll look at why authenticity is hard and why it's still worth it. And we'll unpack how belonging to yourself first can transform not only your relationships, but also the way you experience your own life. So settle in, take a deep breath. You don't have to prove anything here. You don't have to earn your place. You don't have to hide the parts of yourself that feel inconvenient or messy. This is a space for truth, for courage, and for self-compassion. Because the world doesn't need another polished version of you. It needs the real, unfiltered, one-of-a-kind you. And that's exactly where our journey begins. Let's start with a hard truth. Fitting in often feels like belonging until it doesn't. In the moment, blending in can feel like relief. You say the right thing. You laugh at the right jokes. You agree when you don't actually agree, and you feel that quick rush of acceptance. But here's the thing about fitting in. It's like renting a room in someone else's house. You're allowed to stay only as long as you play by their rules, and the moment you step out of line, the welcome mat is gone. I learned this firsthand years ago when I worked in a team where everyone operated on unspoken codes. You didn't challenge certain people. You avoided tuksha topics, and you always agreed with the person in charge. At first, I adapted. I told myself I was just being smart and reading the room. But over time, I realized that the version of me who went into work every day was not the real me. She was quieter, more careful, and constantly calculating. And here's what surprised me. The more I fit in, the more invisible I felt. It was like I had erased myself for the sake of approval. That's the hidden cost of fitting in. You have to trade pieces of yourself for acceptance. And while the world often rewards this adaptability, it comes with consequences. Over time, you may notice loss of authenticity. You start filtering your words and feelings so much that your true self rarely gets airtime, emotional exhaustion. Pretending to be someone else is mentally draining, leaving you depleted and disconnected, fragile relationships. When connection is built on performance, it's always at risk of crumbling the moment you stop performing. Erosion of self-worth. You begin to believe that the real you is not enough, which plants seeds of shame and self-doubt. Think about it, when you consistently hide parts of yourself. You're sending yourself a message, my true self is not welcome here. And when that message plays on repeat, it doesn't just affect how you see others, it changes how you see yourself. It's like carrying an invisible weight, a quiet but constant pressure to keep playing the role you've been assigned. The danger is many of us live this way for so long that we mistake it for our personality. We think I'm just easygoing or I'm just not a confrontational person, when really we've just been conditioned to suppress what we actually think or feel. We wear our compliance like a badge of honor without realizing it's costing us our voice. Brené Brown talks about how true belonging is only possible when we are willing to be fully seen, even if it means being misunderstood or rejected. And that's where the courage comes in. Fitting in asks for compliance, belonging asks for vulnerability, and vulnerability is uncomfortable because it means stepping into spaces where you can't control the outcome. Here's the irony. We think of it when we're busy trying to fit in. We're actually increasing the likelihood of loneliness, because even if people like us, they don't actually know us. They like the mask we wear, the edited version of ourselves that's been curated for approval. And that means deep down, we feel alone in their presence. That's why you can be surrounded by people and still feel disconnected. You're present physically, but absent emotionally. The first step toward belonging is to recognize where in your life you've been settling for fitting in. Maybe it's in your family, where you play the role of the responsible one or the peacekeeper, even when it means silencing your needs. Maybe it's in your friendships, where you go along with plans you don't enjoy just to avoid standing out. Maybe it's in your career, where you downplay your ideas because they don't match the group consensus. These patterns are often so ingrained that it takes real self-reflection to notice them. And when you do notice them, something shifts. You start to feel that gap, the one between who you are and who you've been pretending to be. That gap can feel scary because it forces you to confront the truth. If you want real belonging, you have to risk losing the conditional acceptance that fitting in provides. It's like stepping off a stage where you've been performing for years, taking off the costume and walking into the crowd as yourself. Some people will welcome you with open arms, others will drift away. But the ones who stay, they're the ones who truly belong in your life. So the cost of fitting in is not just self-betrayal, it's the loss of the very belonging you're chasing. And the only way to stop paying that price is to choose authenticity, even when it feels risky. Because while fitting in might get you invited into the room, only authenticity will make you feel at home. One of the most liberating truths I've learned is this: you can't truly belong anywhere until you belong to yourself first. That might sound poetic, but it's actually incredibly practical and incredibly challenging. Belonging to yourself means knowing who you are, standing in your truth, and refusing to abandon yourself for the sake of approval. It's about having your own back, even when no one else does. The reason this is so powerful is because most of us have been taught the opposite. We're told that belonging is something you earn by meeting other people's expectations. From an early age, we pick up the idea that we have to adjust ourselves to gain acceptance, follow the rules, don't rock the boat, be agreeable, make yourself easy to like. And while that might secure temporary approval, it keeps us dependent on others for our sense of worth. Belonging to yourself first flips that script entirely. Instead of asking, what do I need to do so they'll accept me? You begin asking, what do I need to do so I can accept myself? That's a huge shift. It moves your anchor from outside of you, where it can be pulled away at any moment, to inside of you, where it's steady and secure. So what does belonging to yourself look like in real life? Sometimes it's loud, like speaking up when your opinion goes against the group consensus or setting a boundary that others might not like. But often it's quieter. It's choosing not to laugh at a joke that doesn't align with your values. It's walking away from a conversation that feels toxic. It's wearing what you love instead of what's in style. It's telling yourself the truth about how you feel, even when it's uncomfortable. This doesn't mean you stop caring about others or that you become inflexible. It means you stop negotiating your core values in order to be liked. You recognize that no relationship, whether it's with friends, family, colleagues, or partners, is worth abandoning your own integrity. Because when you abandon yourself to please others, you may win their approval, but you lose your own respect. And without self-respect, true belonging is impossible. We think of it as Brené Brown calls this standing alone. And it's one of the hardest things we'll ever do. She said that sometimes standing alone feels like being in the wilderness, far away from the comfort and safety of the crowd. But here's the beautiful part: when you can stand in that wilderness without losing yourself, you carry that strength into every relationship you have. You stop fearing rejection because you know you can survive it. You stop overcompensating for love because you know you are worthy of it without conditions. Belonging to yourself first also means embracing your whole self, not just the polished, acceptable parts, but also the messy, uncertain, imperfect parts. It's easy to love ourselves when we're succeeding, when we're in shape, when our lives look good from the outside. The real work is loving ourselves when we've failed, when we've disappointed people, when our lives feel like they're falling apart. Self-belonging isn't about perfection. It's about compassion. It's looking at yourself in the mirror and saying, I am still worthy even now. This self-belonging becomes the foundation for how you engage with the world. When you're anchored in your own acceptance, you're no longer at the mercy of other people's opinions. You don't chase every hint of approval because you're not starving for it. You don't crumble at criticism because you know it doesn't define you. And most importantly, you attract people who appreciate you for who you are, not who you pretend to be. But let's be honest, belonging to yourself first can feel lonely at times. When you stop molding yourself to fit in, some relationships will naturally shift or fade. You might lose people who only love the version of you that served them. That can hurt deeply. Yet, every time you choose yourself in these moments, and you're creating space for relationships that are rooted in mutual respect and authenticity. And those are the connections that will sustain you. When you belong to yourself, you carry your belonging with you wherever you go. You're no longer dependent on finding the right room, the right group, or the right circumstances to feel worthy. You can walk into any space, whether people embrace you, misunderstand you, or ignore you entirely, and still stand tall in your own skin. So before you search for a place to belong, start by making a home within yourself. Know your values, honor your voice, hold your boundaries, be kind to yourself in your failures. And remember, we think of it as the moment you choose self-belonging, you stop chasing approval and start living in truth. That's where freedom lies. And that's the kind of belonging no one can take away from you. One of the most challenging aspects of true belonging is embracing the fact that you are different and allowing those differences to be visible. Our culture often sends a clear message: blend in, don't stand out too much, don't make waves. From childhood, we're rewarded for conformity. We wear the same uniforms, follow the same rules, and learn the same scripts. And while some structure is necessary, the downside is that we begin to equate sameness with safety. Here's the problem: your uniqueness is not a flaw to hide. It's your fingerprint. It's the collection of traits, experiences, and perspectives that no one else in the world can replicate. And yet, so many of us spend years sanding down our edges to appear more like everyone else. Why? Because difference feels risky. When you stand out, you open yourself to scrutiny, criticism, and sometimes outright rejection. But here's the truth: belonging isn't about erasing your differences. It's about showing up with them. Brené Brown often says that true belonging requires you to stand alone sometimes. And standing alone almost always means standing out. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who inspire you, move you, or give you courage. I'm willing to bet they didn't get there by blending in. They got there by honoring their differences, even when it was uncomfortable. There's a subtle but powerful shift that happens when you stop trying to fix what makes you different and start protecting it instead. Maybe you're the friend who always brings deep meaningful conversations to the table while everyone else keeps it surface level. Maybe you're the creative thinker in a corporate setting full of spreadsheets and procedures. Maybe you're the one who sees beauty and possibility in places others overlook. These differences might make some people uncomfortable, but they are also what make you unforgettable. Of course, this courage doesn't come without fear. Being different can trigger old wounds. Many of us carry scars from times when our uniqueness wasn't celebrated but punished, times we were teased for our appearance, criticized for our ideas, or excluded because we didn't fit the mold. Those moments can plant a seed of shame that whispers, if you want to be safe, be like everyone else. But here's the paradox. We think of it as the more you try to erase your differences, the more you erase your identity. You become a watered down version of yourself, acceptable to more people perhaps, but known by none. You might avoid rejection, but you also avoid the possibility of deep soul level connection, because connection requires truth, and truth requires you to be seen as you really are. When you have the courage to be different, you give others permission to do the same. Your authenticity creates a ripple effect. Maybe you speak openly about a struggle others are too afraid to mention, and suddenly someone else feels less alone. Maybe you bring an unconventional idea to the table, and it sparks innovation that wouldn't have existed otherwise. Courage is contagious. Every time you choose to be visible in your differences, you plant a seed of belonging for someone else. This is not about being different for the sake of rebellion or attention. It's about recognizing that your authenticity is your greatest contribution. Sometimes that means you'll align with the group, and sometimes it means you'll stand apart. True belonging can hold both realities. You don't have to be in constant opposition to belong, but you do have to be willing to stand apart when your truth demands it. And yes, sometimes this will be uncomfortable. You may lose certain opportunities or relationships because you refuse to conform. But what you gain in return is worth far more the unshakable knowledge that you didn't betray yourself to fit in, that you stood in your truth even when it cost you. That's the kind of integrity that builds a foundation for real belonging. Think of it this way: fitting in is about adjusting yourself to match the environment. Courageously being different is about bringing your environment the gift of your full, unaltered self. One diminishes you, the other expands the world. So here's the challenge. Notice where you've been hiding your differences in order to feel safe. Ask yourself what it would look like to protect those parts of you instead. You might find that what you once saw as too much or not enough is actually the most beautiful, essential part of you. Because the moment you stop apologizing for your differences is the moment you step into your true belonging. Not the belonging that asks you to edit yourself, but the belonging that says, come exactly as you are. That's who we've been waiting for. If there's one thing that keeps most people from living authentically, it's the fear of rejection. We don't just fear being left out. We fear the deeper pain that comes with someone looking at the real us and saying, no, thank you. That kind of rejection stings because it feels personal, like proof that our authentic self is unworthy. Here's the tricky part: rejection is unavoidable. No matter how much we try to mold ourselves into something acceptable, there will always be people who don't get us, don't like us, or don't choose us. It's part of being human. And yet, many of us work tirelessly to avoid it. We keep our opinions quiet, we hide our passions, we present a carefully edited version of ourselves to the world. The hope is that if we can avoid rejection, we can avoid pain. But the truth is, avoiding rejection this way just trades one kind of pain for another. The slow ache of never being fully known. The key to navigating rejection on the path to belonging isn't to eliminate it. It's to change the way we interpret it. When you belong to yourself first, rejection stops being a verdict on your worth. Instead, it becomes information. It tells you about the fit, the alignment, and the truth of a relationship or environment. If someone rejects you for being your authentic self, that's not proof that you're broken. It's proof that you're in the wrong room. Brené Brown calls this the wilderness. When you choose authenticity over acceptance, you will sometimes find yourself walking through a season where it feels like you're out there alone. The group you used to belong to might not feel like home anymore. The people you used to please might not be as warm to you. That space can feel empty and scary, like you've lost your safety net. But here's the thing about the wilderness. It's also where you find your people, the ones who see you, understand you, and value you without conditions. We often underestimate how many opportunities and relationships we miss out on when we hide our real selves. By trying to keep everyone's approval, We prevent the people who would love our true selves from ever finding us. Rejection, as painful as it is, clears the path for those people to step in. In that sense, every no is also a form of redirection. Of course, knowing this doesn't make rejection hurt less in the moment. It's okay to admit that it hurts. It's okay to cry about it, to feel the sting in your chest, to grieve what you thought you had. Part of navigating rejection is allowing yourself to feel it without making it your identity. Pain is a visitor, not a permanent resident. Unless you invite it to unpack and stay, this is where self-compassion becomes critical. When you face rejection, you have a choice. You can turn against yourself, asking, what's wrong with me? Or you can turn toward yourself, saying, this hurts, but it doesn't define me. I'm proud I showed up as me. That second choice is what allows you to keep going without building a wall around your heart. It's also important to remember that rejection works both ways. As you grow in self-belonging, you will also reject certain situations, relationships, and opportunities that no longer fit. At first, this can feel like loss, but in time, you realize it's an act of integrity. You're making space for what's truly aligned with you. Navigating rejection means trusting that you are not for everyone, and that's a good thing. Think about your favorite book, movie, or song. Not everyone loves it, but the ones who do connect with it deeply. You are the same. Your authenticity won't be universally adored, but the ones who resonate with it will resonate fully. The next time rejection comes, and it will try to see it not as a closed door, but as a directional sign. It's guiding you toward spaces where you don't have to pretend, toward people who don't need you to edit yourself, toward connections that can hold the fullness of who you are. And when you find those spaces and those people, you'll understand the paradox of belonging. You only find it by risking not having it. So yes, rejection hurts, but it's also a teacher, a filter, and sometimes a blessing in disguise. On the path to true belonging, it's not an obstacle to avoid, it's a milestone to pass. And every time you move through it without abandoning yourself, you come out stronger, freer, and more certain of your place in the world. We've talked about the cost of fitting in, the importance of belonging to yourself, the courage to be different, and navigating rejection. But all of that leads to one question: how do you actually live this way day after day? Because it's one thing to understand the idea of authenticity in theory. It's another to embody it when life gets messy. Living authentically every day isn't about grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It's about small, consistent choices that align with your values and honor who you are. It's about creating a life that feels like yours, not one that's designed to keep other people comfortable. And most importantly, it's about practicing this in the ordinary moments, the ones that no one else will ever see, but that shape how you see yourself. One of the first steps is learning to listen to yourself again. When you've spent years adapting to others, your inner voice can feel faint, like a radio signal that's been buried under static. Start by paying attention to how your body and heart respond in different situations. Do you feel tense or light, energized or drained, excited or uneasy? Those cues are your internal compass, guiding you toward what's aligned and away from what's not. Next, practice saying what you really mean, even in small ways. If a friend suggests a movie you're not interested in, speak up instead of going along. If a coworker asks for your input, share your true perspective instead of defaulting to what's expected. These small moments might seem insignificant, but they're like push-ups for your courage muscle. The more you practice honesty in low-stakes situations, the easier it becomes in high-stakes ones. Living authentically also means embracing imperfection. You will get it wrong sometimes. You say yes when you should have said no. You'll bite your tongue when you wish you hadn't. You'll have days when fear wins. That's part of being human. The goal isn't to be flawlessly authentic. It's to notice when you've drifted away from yourself and gently return. Self-belonging is not about perfection. It's about coming home to yourself over and over again. Another key practice is surrounding yourself with people who celebrate your authenticity. These are the ones who don't just tolerate your quirks, they love them. They don't ask you to shrink, they encourage you to expand. They're honest with you, but their honesty is rooted in respect, not control. If you don't have many of these people in your life right now, don't worry. Authenticity has a way of attracting them. When you show up as yourself, you send out a signal that draws in those who resonate with your truth. Boundaries are also essential. Living authentically means being clear about what's okay and what's not okay for you. It's recognizing that saying no to something misaligned is actually saying yes to your well-being. Boundaries are not walls. They're doors that you open and close intentionally. They allow you to stay connected to others without losing connection to yourself. And finally, we practice gratitude for your own courage. It's easy to get so focused on the risks and discomforts of authenticity that you forget to acknowledge your progress. Take time to notice the moments you honored yourself, even in small ways. Celebrate the times you told the truth, set a boundary, or showed up as you are. Gratitude reinforces the truth that you are capable of living this way, even when it's not easy. The beauty of living authentically is that it creates a ripple effect. When you're real, you invite others to be real too. You make it safer for them to drop their masks and meet you in the space of honesty. You become a mirror that reflects back the possibility of a life lived in truth. And that is a powerful gift, not just to yourself, but to everyone around you. So living authentically every day isn't about suddenly transforming into a fearless version of yourself. It's about choosing moment by moment not to abandon yourself. It's about remembering that you are allowed to take up space, speak your truth, and live a life that feels like it fits you perfectly. Because at the end of the day, true belonging isn't about finding the right people or the right place. It's about bringing your whole self to whatever space you're in. And when you do that, you stop chasing belonging and start carrying it with you everywhere. So as we wrap this journey, let's come back to the heart of the message. True belonging isn't about finding the people who accept you after you've adjusted, polished, or reshaped yourself to fit in. It's about showing up as you are, with your edges, your contradictions, your imperfections, and your light, and knowing that you are enough. We often think belonging is something we earn through performance, compliance, or approval. But the truth is, belonging starts within. It starts the moment you decide that who you are is not negotiable, that your worth is not conditional, that your identity is not a costume you wear to please the room you're in. Yes, it's risky. Yes, it will make some people uncomfortable. And yes, there will be moments of loneliness. But there will also be moments of deep connection, the kind you can't fake, the kind that happens when two people meet without masks. And those moments are worth every ounce of courage it takes to get there. Remember, fitting in asks you to change so you can be accepted. True belonging asks you to be so you can be known. One is an act of fear. The other is an act of love. The greatest freedom you will ever know is the freedom of self-belonging, the ability to stand in your own skin and say, I belong to me. And from that place, I can belong anywhere. Thank you for spending this time with me today. I hope you walk away with more than just words. I hope you leave with a renewed commitment to yourself, because you are not here to shrink, to adjust, or to disguise who you are in order to be loved. You are here to live fully, bravely, and authentically. If today's message resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear that they are enough exactly as they are. And remember, the journey to true belonging is not about finding your place in the world. It's about carrying your place within you everywhere you go. This is Rise with Breene, and until next time, stay true, stay brave, and never change who you are just to belong.